This is Fred Razek at CMTrading. Today is September 5th, 2018, and today is Wednesday morning. So looking at the economic events of the day, starting out earlier this morning at 6:30 South African time, quarterly GDP numbers coming out of Australia. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. That's after on the back of the rate decision from yesterday. We'll take a look at that. And then at 10:30 South African time this morning, GDP numbers coming out, services PMI numbers coming out, and then more importantly, trade balance and Bank of Canada rate statement coming out at 2:30 and 4 o'clock later this afternoon. Now, there's a few points just to ponder before we look at the actual charts. Number one, just make sure to roll over the new futures contracts. That includes the indices, some of the commodities that we trade on the system. For example, the Dow Jones September 18th contract will now need to be forwarded to the Dow Jones December 18th contract. Now that goes for most of the indices and some of the commodities that are traded on the system. Just be aware of that. Now the highlight of the day is Apple stock still very strong. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. Let's see what's been happening in the markets.
This conference will now be recorded.
So we're jumping first into the Euro USD, and as you can see, we capitulated yesterday and started, actually rallying off of this, little bit of a sell-off that we had the previous day, but nothing really to write home about. Okay, this still looks pretty weak. Okay, and we're actually at a minor resistance level right here, and if you look, we actually have a head and shoulders formation right now. Look at that. That's the head. That would be one shoulder. This would be the second shoulder, and this is generally a bearish formation. Just be aware of that. So we may continue going down here. If this does falter around this area, okay, this is a previous support level, subsequent resistance level. So this may actually sell off. Now, the reason I'm a little bit bearish on the euro versus the dollar is that if we look and jump into the Aussie dollar, and remember we have that number coming out later today, and yesterday we had the rate decision. It was really a lackluster day yesterday. Okay, we rallied initially, came to our 73.66ish area and then just sold off, continuously. Okay, we had that small rally yesterday for that rate decision and then continued to sell off. Now we're at our dead lows. If we look at a weekly calendar, you could see that we're at previous support level from multiple years support level right here at these levels right now. So this is really an important level. If we do breach this 7187 level, we could see it correcting itself further down to the 70 and even 69ish level. So that's something to really keep a note of as that continues to trade throughout the day. Now jumping into the Swiss franc, just to jump into it, we had that massive breakout on the downside from 98.113ish level. We're trading at 97.36ish level after bouncing that bottom. Now this is really a little bit harder to have predicted this bottom, but as you can see previously, we've had a little bit of activity around this area before. So to say that this was, breached it completely, I'm not sure we could say that yet. Okay, so we're looking for that balance. Maybe we'll get it up to the 98.13ish level, and then perhaps we'll have a continued sell-off there. So just keep that in mind. Now jumping into the Rand. Okay, now this has really been the story of the day. We had that breakout yesterday. Okay, if we look at this 1484ish level, and this doesn't look like it's giving up. Okay, looking at the JC yesterday, we also had a massive sell-off yesterday. So this is really not a pretty sight to look at for the Rand versus the dollar, getting much weaker versus the dollar. If we look at a weekly chart, that is like almost a correctional move on the upside back into the 16-ish level. I mean, if we do continue at this pace, we could definitely see ourselves back at this high 16-ish level. Okay, so a lot of uncertainty happening in the South African market, and that's really reflecting what's happening in the Rand. Okay, so a little bit disconcerting there for the Rand. So just be aware that if you are in positions right now, just be aware this is breaking out on the high side. Okay, so especially if you're short the Rand or you're short the dollar versus the Rand, you might want to cover it because this could continue going up further. Okay, this has been quite a vicious move on the upside, for the dollar versus the Rand. Now jumping into the commodities, just looking at gold here, setting at 1192, not breaking out lower, okay, but still showing that weakness. Okay, we challenged this 1212 area, which was resistance area. We noted that quite well, and then selling off to this 1192. Okay, so something to really write home about. Just be aware that if we do continue this downward slide, we could just sure enough, be back into the 1160, 1150-ish level as we were before. Now, looking at oil, we sold off a little bit yesterday, tapering at 69.70-ish level, as you can see there, but not breaking out higher. Okay, so this is really something to keep an eye out, because I think we'll still continue to be in a choppy market until otherwise noted. Now, we did mention the JSC earlier. We had this massive sell-off yesterday, okay, after we had this breakout. Okay, so this is what I call the fake out breakout. Okay, and it's basically, it looks like it's going to take it out higher. It just squeezed everybody out and then faked everybody out and then brought it even further down. So this is a little bit disconcerting because, it is, had breached a upper resistance level and showed somewhat of a strength, and then changed character and became really weak right afterwards. So, we look like we're at the bottom of the RSI. I don't want to call this a bottom because in all essence, we are in the middle of this, resistance and support level on the upside and the downside. So just be aware of that. So looking at the Dow Jones yesterday, we sold off about 100 points. Nothing really, major, but we are entering, September month where there's higher volume. Okay, so if there's a sell-off in September, I want to know about it. I really am concerned about it. So, but looking at Apple stock, okay, this is really what's noteworthy in Amazon. It's on its dead highs. It's $228. Its high is $229-ish dollars. Okay, but it didn't sell off. The market sold off, but the stocks are not. So needless to say, this may continue this upward momentum and force the market upwards in the indices. Okay, looking at Amazon stock, 2039, okay, all-time highs all over again. Okay, so this is why I'm not a little bit concerned about the markets. However, when we look at the weaker stocks, okay, let's take a look at Facebook on the bottom of its range here, looking like it's going to break below this 171-ish level. If it does breach it, we could definitely see it back in the 155-ish level. Okay, so just be aware that if this does breach around this area, this is a decent support. Same thing with Tesla. Tesla is trading close to its support at 289. After this massive rally we had to 379, we're about 100 points less and testing our lows. Okay, however, these are not the bellwethers. The Facebook and Tesla are not the bellwethers. They're not the, the major components of the Dow Jones or the Nasdaq. But you could see that you could play both sides. When the markets are strong and you're looking at the major stocks and they're breaking out higher, you're looking to buy those. Okay, but when the market corrects itself and starts selling off, you're looking to short the weaker ones. Okay, that's called relative strength, a great strategy. And this is, almost free money on the table. So lots of opportunities today. So just be aware of some of the correctional moves we're having in the currencies versus the dollar getting stronger. Now let's see if we do get that continued strength. Now, in the indices, it's still a little bit of a question mark as to our direction, okay, as the stocks are really breaking out higher, but the indices seem reluctant to, so just be aware of that. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.